what's up, guys? This is Church of Caboose, and I guess it's this week because I'm kind of more on a weekly upload basis now. This week's video, it's going to be a lot of Solstice heroes talking and tips, tricks, as well as my thoughts, opinions, pros, cons, critiques, that sort of a thing in regards to the Solstice of Heroes. It started this year on August 11th at the weekly reset, and it's supposed to go for 3 weeks, so make sure you guys take advantage of these tips to try and get your armor and all that stuff that you want within the time frame, because 3 weeks is not a whole lot of time, especially if you're like me and you have to work full time and perhaps you have a couple of jobs. These tips should be able to help you to reasonably get what you want out of the event, and probably even on all 3 characters. So that's what we're gonna first start off talking about, is tips and tricks on how to get all 3 characters done, and to not want to shoot yourself in the head or bang your head into a wall because of how annoying the Solstice of Heroes grind can be if you don't take my tips. So, before we get too far into it, if you guys do enjoy the video, make sure you click the like button. If you find the information particularly helpful, feel free to share it with your friends, as well as subscribe to my channel if you want to see more stuff in the future. So there you go, that is it for my intro. Now let's talk about how tips and tricks to, I guess, get all these things done and as painlessly as possible. For myself, I am now halfway through my second character, and that's kind of why I have delayed this video by a couple days more longer than I probably normally would. I want to make sure I got all the way through at least one character, including the glows, and started another one so I could verify some things, as well as try some different ideas out to how I give you guys the best information. But I want to really show off my Titan real quick. I think the glow looks real good on Titan. This is not the one that you buy from Eververse. It's just what you get when you complete the objectives once you have the magnificent legendary armor all the way completed. So now let's talk about the tips and tricks that I have. Probably one of the biggest ones is when you are trying to do all these different armor pieces, put them all at the same time. Equip all the armor. It might sound kind of stupid because you're going to lose some power, but almost none of the activities you're doing need that high of a power. So being 1020 plus whatever your weapons are at is really not much of a hindrance. The bigger hindrance is it might feel a little bit rougher because you don't have mods on. You probably won't have the exact kind of stat rolls you were hoping for. But if you're, especially if you're a really casual player, I don't think you'll notice a ton of a difference. And it's just way better for efficiency reasons to keep on all the armor until you have an armor piece finished up, and then you can switch it out if you desire. I just left them on the whole time myself, but hey, once you get it done, you can put on whatever you want. So how should you guys be approaching your first character? It's a really long grind. I've been seeing lots of reports where it probably takes between 8 to 9 hours to get all the armor done. I believe I was in that window, though I wasn't timing myself specifically. I just think that sounds about right from my experience. But if you don't use these tips, you will probably be more in the 10 to 12 hour range. Some of this stuff is things I do from past years. Some of it's from just kind of learning about the game from other events that have some kind of a grindy nature to it. And most importantly, I'm all about efficiency. So when you leave all that armor on, you might notice as you're looking through for those objectives, you're going to see activities. You might have to do strikes, you might have to do public events, heroic adventures, heroic public events, gambits, crucible, that kind of thing. And you can then pick one of those activities. So you pick one of them, then you go through your armor and see, okay, now what kind of kills do I have to get? I know because of Titan, because that's what I did first, you need to get solar punches. So I'm like, all right, cool. It might make a lot of sense, especially with solar burn being the burn for strikes this week, for me to run a solar subclass. Now of that subclass, what's the best for me for getting solar punches? So I went with burning wall because I could throw that little hammer over and over and pick it up and get my health, and that worked really well for me. There's other strategies where you could do things like run the bottom tree. I'm blinking on what it's called. But when you punch an ad, if it kills them, it leaves a little sunspot, and other ads that run into it also usually die. That's another thing you could do within strikes. And I also would look at, okay, do I need to pick up any specific type of orbs or a specific type of energy kills? And I would then do those while I'm doing the strikes. So you can kind of see how I was doing 3 and then sometimes as many as 4 things at the same time, because I would pick an activity, look through my armor, see what made the most sense to try and put on for weapons and subclasses, and then I would go and do that, and I was effectively getting 4 things at the same time of doing one activity, which is a really smart way to go about this. Now, when you get to the end, especially when you do this on the legendary armor, you do have to get like 2,000 elemental kills. There is a chance that you will not have all of those done by the time you get everything else done. In theory, you'd only have like maybe 100 or 200 left at the most, but you never know. Maybe you were really good at speedrunning. So if you need to make up some elemental kills, or just kills of some type in general, I would highly suggest using the Altar of Sorrows, because Escalation Protocol right now has lots of people low farming, which isn't necessarily a bad idea, but that also wastes a lot of time, because once you complete like the third wave, if you want it to reset, you have to wait for so long, and then you start it up again. And there's also a lot of random people hopping in. They're probably trying to do whatever they want, and so counting on that low farm is not necessarily a fantastic way to go. But if you do Altar of Sorrows, every wave has tons and tons and tons and tons of ads. Every wave has those majors. Every wave has lots of opportunity to generate your own orbs to make yourself supers, as well as just getting lots of kills, and so it's a fantastic way to get through. Now, some people have said Blinding Well, but to use the Blinding Well, you have to have resources to spend, and unless you feel like going and buying a whole bunch of different things from Petrevenge, you're probably going to run out relatively quickly and either have to hope other people in the area have it, or just go over to Altar of Sorrows and just be there and it starts. So Altar of Sorrows is what I would suggest you guys do a lot for finishing up those elemental kills. Now, the first character will be the longest. Something I really enjoyed about this whole thing for this year is that once you get your first character all the way done, you have to have all your magnificent armor done. Not necessarily the objectives to make it where you get the glow. You just have to have all the armor done up to the glow part. The glow part would be things like Trials, Winds, Nightmare Hunt, stuff like that. So your second character will be twice as fast. Everything has double progress. The third character, everything is triple progress. So to give you guys an idea, for my second character, instead of having to do 5 adventures, I did 2. Instead of 5 strikes, I had to do 2, which is a little bit more than 2 times as fast, but hey, I will take it. So it's not going to be as bad. So if you use these tips, the other characters are exponentially faster. Like I put like an hour, maybe 2 tops on my Warlock last night when I started fresh, and I'm already almost done with the blue armor. Like I'll probably finish it in like a half hour after I start playing today, and then get the purple armor done, I would imagine like 3 hours tops. So those are my tips and tricks for how to try and get your characters done without wanting to bang your head into a wall. Now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes, talking about the pros and cons of this event, my thoughts, critiques, that sort of thing. So let's get on into it. So let's start this part of the video off by talking about the pros and cons of the Solstice of Heroes for 2020. So for this year, not for past years. So this year, let's talk about the pros first. I usually like talking about positive things to kick stuff off. So people are actually playing Trials. That's one of the biggest things I actually really liked, was when I was doing the Trials runs. It was super obvious that lots of other people that normally probably wouldn't be playing Trials are playing Trials. I don't even feel like I even need to look at Charlemagne to see what the actual numbers are. If it's an insane bump for this week, I would expect next week would be a little bit lower, because not everyone's going for 3 characters, but lots of people are playing Trials. It was way more fun this week than it was when I was doing those 7 wins back in the beginning of Moments of Triumph. It's just overall way better. We have Exponential Progress. So in past years, or I guess specifically last year, the grind you experienced on the first character, like I was talking about earlier in the video, was the same grind you did for the remaining 2 characters. If you want to get a little chuckle, I made a 15-second video about the Void Streak Sparrow. Hopefully I'll remember to put a card to it right here. Feel free to check it out later. I think it's pretty funny, but hey, you guys watch it, you let me know. So that's a great buff to have from this year, is that we get Exponential Progress. Elemental buffs are nice. I do enjoy having where you get that enough orbs picked up, and then you get something different, like crouching when you're void, makes you go invisible when you got that going. Solar gives off some explosive thing, and I haven't really tested or looked into the arc, but I know arc does something. I just don't know what it is. It did something empowered. But anyways, I think it's really cool to get those elemental, buff experience things. Right now, more people are playing. I feel like a lot of folks came back. This is a really long season. It's supposed to be beginning of June till beginning of September, and now it's till beginning of November, November 10th. So it's a really long season. So a lot of folks like myself when you hit that base max power of 1060, which is what it is for this season at least, you kind of like, now what? And if you're like me, I like trying to hunt down titles and triumphs, and so that's kind of when the game starts for me. But a lot of other folks are like, done, outie, like no reason to play this game anymore. So with this event, people are coming back, which results in a higher player base for everything, which to me makes things more fun. Then we have the white glow. When you finish that armor and you do complete the objectives, so one of them is a nightmare hunt, it can be any nightmare hunt, then that armor piece is exuding with light, and it's white light. It's different than what you can buy from Eververse. Eververse is elemental based, so if you're running void, it's a void color. If you're running solar, it's solar color. Arc color, and there's going to be a stasis option for it as well come beyond light. So this one's just white that you get without buying with silver or bright dust. Then we get to work on our catalysts. This is kind of a minor thing, but I have lots of catalysts. I mean, not lots, but I definitely had at least some catalysts. I just don't really use the gun, so I never did them. And I was going through and it's like, hey, while I'm mindlessly killing stuff, I might as well use an exotic that I don't have the catalyst finished for yet. And this is a decent time to work on it. So that's kind of a nice little perk for me, which is why I put it at the end, because many of you might not care. I just happen to care about it a lot. Now let's talk about the cons, the negative things with this event. Because if you love anything or enjoy something, it's okay to want to critique it because you want to make it better. So we do need to talk about stuff that could be improved upon for the future. I do not like having to play regular Gambit. Now, some of you might say, hey, Church, Prime was supposed to work. It's bugged. But I don't care, because that leads me into number 2, which is why we keep having events with these bugs. Like, we don't get Bright Dust this week from Evavante bounties, which originally was supposed to happen. There was something involving the Titan, where if you did the Titan armor first, then the Exponential didn't carry over. They fixed that, though, by the way. That one's fixed. I fixed that one within a couple of days, so thank you, Bungie, for that. And then we have the Bright Dust stuff, and then Gambit. So we got some issues with bugs. I do appreciate, though, that Bungie did fix at least one of them relatively quickly. And then we have within the EAZ, to me, I'm sure there's YouTubers and other folks that love the EAZ. I don't. I asked some opinions of clanmates, including my wife, what they thought. So that way it just wasn't all my opinion, because I did play it quite a bit last year. And the consensus within my small poll sample was it's just not super fun. There's a bunch of reasons for that. A lot of it involves it's a little bit difficult to try and find where these bosses are at, because you can waste a lot of time going into a building and huzzah, the boss can't actually be found in that building, so you have to refigure it out. That's a lot of why people don't find it enjoyable. I would say you can also prove people don't find it enjoyable because there is now a thing called AFK EAZ farming, because something with how the armor works, you don't necessarily even have to play in the EAZ to get progress, so people just like load in and sit there. I'll admit I kind of do that sometimes during the chest finding, because I don't care about the chests, but if I see a couple like nearby, I'll grab them to try and help out. Not every time, but I do that sometimes. And speaking of chests, EAZ chests and the fact that they're being hidden is an unnecessary addition. I don't really get the point of having the whole thing being time-based. Like, why can't it be something like a set like 300 and something seconds, like you get at the end when you do the interference mission? So you just run around, you see where they're at, you grab them. You don't want to grab them, fine, you leave. Like, I'm not sure why it has to be timed. I guess it's just to try and make it slightly more difficult. But when the rewards from those chests are kind of like, who cares? Then why does it matter too much if you don't get them or do get them? So I just don't get why we have to make the chests all hidden and annoying to try and find. Something else that's rather annoying in the con from this year is buying yet another glow set from Eververse. We have enough of these sets where it's just only available from Eververse. Like, why couldn't it have been so for each armor piece you get, say, 4 objectives, right? You have 1 for the white glow, 1 for void, 1 for solar, 1 for arc, and I guess if they wanted to throw in stasis, you'd have a 5th for 1 for stasis. And that wouldn't be necessarily that bad. For example, for there's a nightmare hunt option. So you could have 1 glow is from the lowest power, one's from the next one up, one's from the third one, and then one's from the master, and then there could be something like do it flawlessly or something for the stasis glow. Something like that, where you're just unlocking these different tiers instead of necessarily having to just go and be like, well, I hope I got 6,000 bright dust, which I guess is better than last year because you had to buy each color individually from Eververse, and this year it's just as a character. But it's still like, come on, we could have put in-game ways of making it where we could have earned all that stuff without having to buy it besides just the white glow. I also wasn't a huge fan of that TWAB. We're like, yeah, we give you guys a free glow. I was like, okay. You made almost 200 grand on the first day of that Iron Severance emote thing being around. Don't stop this whole, well, Bungie needs the money. No. I get they need to make money in general, but as far as this whole little, like, I need $10 to get my glow, like, no, that's just stupid. Oh my gosh. Anyways, then we got bugs with, we were talking about the bugs. And then the last thing I think is kind of weird is the armor does not get masterworked once you finish the objective. In past years, once you get the armor and you get to the part where this year you get the glow, in past years it would masterwork the armor, which gave a lot of incentive to folks who don't play the end game to actually like want to do this because like, hey, look, free masterworked armor. I'm sure that's like 90% of the reason why lots of folks still do Pit of Heresy. That's why I do it. I don't really care too much at this point about the pinnacle gear. I just want the resources so I can just get it. Oh, yep, it's a piece of crap. Delete it. So I know I just got the resources. And why can't we have something like that with the Solstice of Heroes armor? Granted, we would probably keep it because you'd have to redo the objectives. But I don't know why we couldn't have it be masterworked. We all want that masterworked loot. And not everyone, because Bungie, I could probably do a video on this, is really catering to casualization. So why not make it where that gear gets masterworked? So now we're going to talk about future ideas, but before I do that, if you guys have anything you do like that I didn't mention, or you want to show concurrence upon, comment it down below. If you got things that you don't like that I didn't mention, or you're like, yeah, I don't like that either, comment down below, because the more interaction, the more likely Bungie is to see this, and maybe, if there's enough people, maybe Bungie will take into consideration for future ideas. So speaking of future ideas, let's talk about them. Here we go. So now let's talk about these future ideas. I have an idea where we don't use the EAZ. Currently, we're having AFK stuff happening, which happened with the Forges. There's not good rewards. Like, in general, a lot of people don't necessarily, oh, look, that piece of Majestic armor is 62 stats. Like, if you do raids and endgame and pinnacle stuff in general, you probably have a fair number of things that are like 65 and higher. Maybe not, because it is RNG. But to have that whole armor enticing thing, not a super good idea for this year. We don't have an engaging event for the EAZ. When I hop in the EAZ at this point, because I got all the packages I needed while doing my first character, it's just to get the kills because I have to do it for the armor. So, all right, hop in the EAZ. I just kill all the random red bars that are running around, so whatever. And then we've also got some things like hidden crystals. There's like little hidden glowing orange crystals. When you blow them up, they're supposed to drop elemental orbs. I can't always tell if they do, so maybe it's bugged, maybe it's not, but that's what they're supposed to do. So if you see them, that's why they're there. We should have something more than just a 5 orb drop. Like I think last year it was like 10 or 12. I think. I don't know. So this year it's about 5 from what I can tell so far. So if I'm wrong, let me know down below. And that's honestly my mistake. I'm just basing that off of what I've seen and from talking with other people. I kind of would like to see something where we use a different zone. So if we had a way of making this event, like we could completely get rid of the EAZ. And just fix some of these issues and use something else. But the EAZ has some potential. So if we were to do things like put in good rewards, then people wouldn't be AFK. If we had something where it was like every boss you killed, every ad or anything you killed after that would drop more orbs. So like after you kill the first boss, maybe every kill drops you 2 of those elemental orbs. So then by the time you get to like 8, everything's dropping you like 16 orbs. Like that'd be a real incentive to just, like actually try to fly through and learn the joint, so you only have to do it like once instead of this whole AFK bullcrap that keeps going on. You could also just change the location. Maybe you just do it somewhere on a different planet, or somewhere is not the aerial zone and the European dead zone, just to change it up a little bit. If we were to change that up, that might actually be a pretty good thing, be a little bit more engaging. I know I do the EAZ as little as possible because I honestly don't care about the rewards. I don't like being in there and hopping all over the place. Some people are like, yeah, we get to go vertical. I'm like, that's not a huge game changer for me to hop on buildings, so I can't say I care a whole lot about that. So if we're gonna make this whole thing more engaging, more people would want to play it. If we did something like more bosses equals more loot. So like, say we had some hypothetical cap of 12 bosses. Once you get to 12 bosses defeated, you go to where you kill the final dude, and the timer just stops. So either you use up to the last second, or you get done like halfway through, whatever, just a cap on the number of bosses. And so then you would have better loot. So say you got 12 bosses killed. Every time you open up one of those 12 chests, you have a decent chance of any better loot, and you could have something like, for an armor piece, you're guaranteed to have 63 stat roll or higher. Something like that to give incentive to want to go through the bosses, instead of, well, I just get keys and whatever, and those boxes I open with those keys just give me blue armor, and I guess I'll get some purple armor once I get all my majestic stuff done. I guess that's a thing. I think having that whole gradually increasingly better loot would be way better for the EAZ, and I probably want to do it more myself. Then I kind of would like to change how difficult it is to navigate. Like, if there's a way to make all the buildings like in the area kind of connect, so if you like run through a doorway and you're like, oh crap, the boss isn't in here, you don't have to like run outside, find a new way to approach it and hope that's the way. It's like something where they're kind of like an actual building, because if you walk into a skyscraper like in New York City or something, it's not like, well, I'm on the first floor, I can't get to the 10th floor. Like, you got an elevator. So like, we should have some way where we can get through all these buildings instead of having to run in and out of them, which would cause less frustration. I would also like to see for the future where we add something in besides just the armor. It could be some kind of a specific event weapon like we had with Heir Apparent, but a lot of folks don't really care a whole lot about the armor, especially if they're not exotic, because that means it's going to sunset at some point. So like, if we had maybe an exotic armor piece, like you do all 3 characters and then you get like an exotic class item, that'd be kind of cool. I would totally be down for that. So you just gotta change up the rewards. Something, I don't know, exotic armor, exotic weapon, something that we are like, yeah, I want it because I can use it forever, would be great. Chests at the end are rather annoying, like I said before. So maybe we do a thing where they're kind of like always marked, but maybe you have to have on a specific EAZ ghost shell. Like maybe you can't see it unless you earn the ghost shell, and then once you got the ghost shell, you can see them no matter where they're at. That'd be some incentive to do it, because then you'd have, because of those rewards, be like, yeah, so I got this ghost shell, I'll be able to get all of them, I can help my teammates out, and I'm going to still be getting good loot. I think that'd be kind of a cool thing to have for EAZs in the future. Then let's see here, I want to have something with like hidden lore, because there's some activities you do when you complete it, you have a chance of a lore piece dropping, like with trials, for example. I think it's every time you complete a match, you have a chance at a lore piece dropping. Then you have Thorn. Getting kills with Thorn would unlock different lore pieces. So it'd be kind of cool to have something like that with the EAZ. That might be a little bit over the top for a limited event, considering that would take some story writing and such. But maybe since it's been 2 years, maybe it wouldn't be as bad for the 3rd year. I don't know. Just an idea to try and make it more engaging, because there are folks who only play for the lore, and so they'll totally hop in an event if they have lore to grab. My wife loves the lore. She does stuff I wouldn't do in like 1,000 years for the lore, and so I do it with her because I'm like, well, might as well, because I love you. And so that'd be kind of cool for the EAZ. And then lastly, we kind of talked about it a little bit, but I really think we gotta have some kind of a thing with having a certain number of bosses gives you certain levels of rewards, kind of like Nightfalls. If you get Platinum, you get the best option for reward from that Nightfall. Something like that with the EAZ would be absolutely fantastic. Alright guys, I really appreciate you all watching this video. If you have anything you want to add, please comment it down below. Please let me know. Maybe you think my ideas are crap. Maybe you think they're gold. Maybe a lot of these are my wife's ideas. Maybe you guys think, yeah, like, let's hear more from her. Like, let me know, because she's got lots of great ideas, and sometimes, especially on this one, helps me out with thinking of ways to improve stuff. And I also would love to hear from you guys, because I'm sure there's people out there watching this that have gold ideas that no one's thought of yet. So let's share them all down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I am Church of Caboose. Have a great week, and happy grinding, y'all.